Welcome back to Wise Up TV, where today we are breaking down the 18-0 win by the Kangaroos against Tonga last night at Brisbane Suncorp. A crowd of 33,000 was a great atmosphere. It was great to see the Sippy Towel. Great to see the whole international scene back on stage and Pacific Championship started. And we're going to break down today this game for you. We're going to look at the stats, player stats, the team stats, and try and create the picture as to why Tonga lost and maybe as to why Australia won that game. It was a very close fought match for the first half, only 6-0 at half time, and it felt as though Tonga had really big opportunities. So we'll break down those details for you and look into it. But if we are here for the first time, guys, please like and subscribe to Wise Up TV for all your Pacific Championships content coming over the next couple of weeks. So, yeah, hang out with us for the foreseeable future here on Wise Up TV. 18-0, obviously, guys. It was a close fought battle for majority of it. As you can see, Travojevic with that intercept tried to start off with. Lolo here, really misguided pass, didn't really take a good look at it. Travojevic just been class. He was class all night. Probably for me, the best player on the field by a decent amount. Then in the 51st minute, Hamiso Tabuaifida, when it was kind of the game was locked in, he opened it up and the fend he put on Alamotti destroyed Alamotti, and that power and pace. Alamotti did well for a majority of the night, but man, Hamiso just picked his moments and destroyed him. And then Dearden finished it off in the 78th minute. There was a lot of periods there where Tonga had the opportunity, had a lot of good position where they could have actually gone on to put some pressure on Australia. Australia too good defensively, but not enough from me personally from Tonga to kind of create. Lomax was good on the boot, just missed that last one at the end there. He also got the penalty. But yeah, just really unfortunate. Let's just break down some of the team stats, guys. Yeah, 50% possession, although that's over the game. I think Tonga at the start of the game had a ton of possession that I thought they didn't really use effectively. Then you got completion rate. Look at that. There's 24 to 39 sets for the Kangaroos to 34 for 42, which is actually not too bad for Tonga, but you can tell they had a majority of the ball and they used it well. Australia with a ton of errors, but Tonga not able to capitalize on those errors. A lot of high balls dropped by the back five. That would be an area that will be looked into by teams against Australia. Can they target Lomax again? Can they target Dylan Edwards with two drops from tackles? So there's a lot of errors in this game, and it's typical of teams when you come into international footy and tournament football. Players haven't played for almost 4 or 5 weeks. There's going to be a lot of errors, a lot of mental lapses from both teams. So, but surprisingly, you look at that 61% in an NRL game or any other game, the team with that type of completion rate never wins the game. But the quality of the Australians to be able to counter that is a credit to them. But Tonga, with decent amount of possession, you could say, but didn't capitalize on that position. An interesting stat too. It felt like Tonga was the dominant team, but when you look at the overall picture, 19 and 22, 1,922 meters by Australia. So Tonga's only 1,480. So it actually tells you that they were quite consistent throughout the game, Australia. I mean, there was that periods of the game where they really were on top, and I thought Harry Grant got them out of dummy half really well. Tonga survived. They had how many goal line saving tackles on their try line. They did amazing to try and really limit Australia, who are always putting pressure on your defensive line. But it kind of paints a picture that Australia were the dominant team through yardage. Post contact, roughly around the same. Line breaks, again, not too many line breaks, but 4-2. Tackle breaks, close to even. But this one here, 49 meters in set distance to 35. Usually in an NRL game, 40 is pretty good, 44, 45, but 49 paints you a picture that when they got the ball, they were on the front foot. 35 for Tonga is probably a little bit low for mine. I thought they deserved a bit more, but when you look at the stats in terms of kick returns here from the back five, look how little Tonga had with 66. That pressure, you could tell when that wave of defense that Australia really tried to put pressure on the back five, and they always typically do. And it got to Tonga quite good there. But likewise, on the other hand, Xavier Coates had a massive game. I thought he was huge in terms of just yardage, kick return yards. Very tall, strong player that's really hard to bring down. But, that disparity there, you need your back five to be able to really pick your game up but Australia just getting on top there. Um, Passing offloads, a bit more passing. There was quite a good offloading game. A lot of offloads going around, which was great to see. To try and open up the second phase. Kicking. Now look at that, 811 meters from pretty much Isaiah Couture did majority of the kicking, and he did well. I thought there was one kick where he kicked it dead. It ended up going the few kicks actually, but the one that he tried to go for 40-20, if he nailed it, it could have been a game changer. He kicked early in the game on the third or fourth tackle at times to try and kind of get Australia pinned back, which I thought was a smart strategy. But it also tells you the need to kind of kick out of your own end. I suppose a lot of their sets ending on their 40 sometimes, or even their 30. But the requirement to be able to kick to stay in the game. Whereas you can tell on the opposite side, Australia probably had a lot more better meters and field position, and Moses did well just to give those high balls. And although meters wise it's not much, but still putting a lot of kick pressure on Tonga. 2-1 forced dropouts, kick defusal. Again, look at that, 25%. Tells you that Australia at the back were horrible with diffusing those kicks. A lot of kick pressure was put on them by Tonga. So that's a good little sign there. Tackle efficiency, yeah, kind of similar in many senses. Tonga had to do less tackling. Australia, you can tell they did a lot of work. Missed tackles around the same, and effective tackles, Tonga with a few more. You could tell they missed off. They started to drop off in patches in the game, especially towards the end. They did and try almost 4 or 5 guys just not really committing to the tackle there, which is the dominance of Australia. But again, 19 errors for Australia. I mean, that is quite disgusting, and I doubt that they'll do that again. And this is probably why I'm pointing to the fact that Tonga had a great opportunity to catch Australia while they're kind of not really prepared. They got a lot of errors in their game. This is a great game, the first game especially, to catch kind of a team that's underdone a little bit. And you can tell with 19 errors, that is a ton of errors and opportunities that Tonga didn't really get to capitalize on, unfortunately. 9 errors to Tonga, which is not too good either. But that's about it for that. So that kind of paints a picture for me that Tonga were, in many senses, and when I watched the game, I thought they just couldn't ice it on the goal line. They had a ton of possession, but they couldn't. The service from Havili and Luke at times was poor. The creativity was all dependent on Isaiah Couture. You could tell in their sets, the build-up to their sets, that they had a lot of wasted one-out tackles. There was no real thought process as to how they wanted to attack and build into that attack. A lot of it was old-school style and typical of Pacific nations, where one-out hit-ups on a goal line, and then you do come up with something on the 5th tackle, and you hope and pray that someone catches a bomb and you get over the line. I think there needs to be a level of detail to this attack that they need to really improve. Now, in fairness to Australia, they weren't amazing either on goal line attack. Both teams were quite really poor in terms of a structural attack. But for Tonga, they had so much good ball that they didn't really weren't effective enough with it. A lot of wasted sets. I mean, you look at the NRL and teams now, they almost have each tackle has a purpose, and it leads to something. And you can attack even second or third tackle. Tonga, I felt, just waited and waited, kept going back through the middle, which is their strength, but it was almost too predictable for the likes of Australia to read, and not enough variety, in my opinion, around that space. As you can see here, interesting one, Couture, 34 tackles. You can see there's a clear strategy from Australia to target him. He did really well. I got to commend him. He was very physical. He took a battering. You could see that he took a big hit. They had to stop the game for a little bit. A very physical game for Isaiah, but he did, for me, in terms of defense, majority well. That side did pretty good, barring Fido's try on Alamoti. They diffused a lot on that side, but they did pretty well. But Cam Murray was quite quiet for me, but if I actually add it up in terms of, he was just doing a lot of defensive work the majority of the night. And you didn't really see him step out and attack as opposed to Angus Crichton. But you got to give Cam Murray credit. He's a tackling machine out there and just diffusing everything that Olokwatu Suli threw at him. Those are big guys to deal with, and Cam Murray did a great job. Moses Suli, I thought, was one of the best outside backs for Tonga. Uh, and between him and Fido, although Turbo, you probably say overall was the best centre or the best player, I thought Sully was near close enough in terms of his impact. His running style, he was getting over the advantage line. Post-contact meters were high. He was really, really dominant physically. I would have loved to have seen him get some ball closer to line on a goal line attack where they could utilize his size a bit more. But apart from that, I thought he had a really, really good game. Coates again didn't really stand out, didn't do too much. But physically on his kick returns, he just does not stop that guy. He's relentless in terms of physicality going into contact, hard to bring down. I thought he was really great in that area. So let's break down the Kangaroos here. Let's just quickly go back to the start here, and we'll look at their meters and kind of get an evaluation of like how much work was done. Dylan Edwards, 21 for 170. Coates, like I said, the most meters. Fido, the outside backs really ate, and comparison, we'll probably look at some of the numbers for Tonga. That back five really stood up from a speed element, from a yardage element, from involvement, and that when you accumulate it over a game, it can be very difficult to shut down. So I got to give credit to their back five. You can see Tom Dearden, how active he is as a runner of the ball. Very hard to deal with. Very attacking minded, running minded type 5'8". Moses not so much, but Carrigan a little bit light for the Harry Grants and Lindsay Collins, I suppose. Angus Crichton had a good running game. Like I said, Cam Murray not so much, more focused defensively, you could tell. Yo with decent numbers. Mitch Barnett off the bench, absolutely massive during that period. And, to my man, Mitchie B, he has been awesome. And then Cotter with a good 100. But again, not all mind-blowing stats, but when you compare it to Tonga's, the yardage was consistent for Australia throughout the game. Then if we go across to our tackle percentages, like I said, pretty good numbers. Go to the middle. Dearden with some solid tackling. Moses both with 20. That's good tackling numbers for halves. Carrigan 38. Harry Grant 31. Lindsay Collins 38. All did a ton of tackling. Yo, Murray, and I suppose the scoreline 18-0. You got to give credit to Australia. I said Tonga could probably have done better attack-wise, a bit more clinical, but you can only tackle what's in front of you. You can only defend what shape they give you, and you got to give credit to Australia. They absolutely all stood up. That front row and back row all tackled their hearts out and diffused a lot of what Tonga was trying to do. So got to give a lot of credit there. And then just quickly going on the errors, a ton of handling errors. Like I said, Dylan Edwards, Travojevic, as much as he's a great player, he does have one or two errors in his game. Lomax, Dearden, Lomax with 4, that's a lot. But again, I think these guys will iron these errors out. You won't see that against the Kiwis as much. I think it will be much more tighter from Australia. But it's a game, it's a first game of a tournament. It's always a time where a lot of errors do come into play. Let's go over to Tonga, guys, where we're just going to quickly look at their meters. Lehigh with a 1.610 to 168. That's not too bad. And just quickly on Lehigh, I thought he had a really good game. I thought, apart from the Simbin, which Harry Grant does to everyone, and it was a professional foul, his positioning was pretty good. He diffused a lot of bombs. He is a more leaner, smaller fullback, but he does so well to kind of deal with things. His positional play. Link play wasn't very good. You could tell just timing of positioning and passing. It just wasn't there for Tonga tonight. And yeah, I suppose that for me was the difference in many ways. But I thought Lehigh did himself really proud. He's got a smart footy IQ, knows positioning well. He kind of got intangibles. He's a player I look forward to seeing how he develops over the next couple of years. And for Tonga, if he is the man going into a World Cup, there's something there you could build around. Tupou, decent numbers. Like I said, Moses Sully was absolutely beast. On every carry, he nearly got over the line and was looking threatening. Alamoti would want more from Alamoti, but he had a big defensive assignment there against Fido, and he did well, barring that one time, which is just world class from Fido. Sione Katoa probably would love to have had a bit more energy from him, quiet in many ways. But Tui Lolo here, 70 meters. Again, just quickly on Tui, I don't think Tui was the best guy for Tonga. I think there needs to be a serious look into Tonga and figuring out who is next to kind of help Tui, kind of take the game to the next level to help help Isaiah Katoa. But hopefully this combination can grow, and you might see a different kind of performance from their halves come against the Kiwis in Auckland in about 2 weeks' time. So we'll see what happens. Adam Fanua-Blake, very quiet number from that sign. Obviously, more of a quiet game. You'd love to see Adam up around the 170, 180. But at least he's in the 130s. But you want a bit more dominance from your alpha dog there. Saliva 15. He played more of a defensive role, just one out service from dummy half, not too much. So you didn't really see much. Olokoatu had a massive game. I thought physically he was just empowering. Just quickly, Jason Taumalolo, I thought was absolutely beast as well. I didn't expect that from the big man, and he was really good. But you can see some of the numbers off the bench aren't the greatest. Say Sonny Luke, Tuponuia, Paseka, Keon was great, barring he had a lot of errors in his game. But you're probably saying that 4-pack didn't quite get on top of Australia enough to kind of make them pay. And maybe that was always the argument, was that Australia were going to have a more mobile 4-pack that will eventually get on top. And you could probably say that through the numbers, but for this 4-pack to really dominate, they need everyone hitting on all cylinders, everyone over 100 meters. You want everyone kind of really contributing. But hopefully they got a game against New Zealand. You might see them start to really open up. I think this is a massive test for the Kiwis come in a few weeks' time. So, but that's in terms of yardage. Let's just quickly look at the tackle breaks. Like I said, Moses Sully, 4 tackle breaks. He was absolutely massive. Katoa as well with some tackle breaks there. Defensively, Olamoti 25-6 and 6 missed. That was tough. He had a few bad ones. He's out on an island there. Like the pace of Fido, and Alamotti did his best, but he's like one-on-one there a lot of the times, and it can be quite difficult. Alamotti had a few errors as well. Not his best game, but you're hoping that he can build some consistency going into the Auckland game. Again, as I point out, Katoa tackled a lot. They did target him a bit, and he did well. But game plan-wise, you feel as though Australia did quite a bit to tire him out. And because he was such a focal point for me, maybe that took a little bit away from his detail in his kicking game. And you can tell that he kicked 2 kicks out on the full. He kicked maybe 3 or 4 that went dead over the goal line. That's 7 tackle sets for Australia, which you just can't give them. And so maybe because of all that defensive work, that's what happened. Similarly, I worry for the likes of a Sean Johnson or Nikarima next week. If they will get targeted like that physically, it does take away from your attacking game. But I'm hoping with Sean Johnson that his experience and maybe with a bit more protection around him in the back row, we may be able to see him still be able to be effective. But I thought Katoa, probably this is the game for him where he'll learn a lot from that and the level it needs to be at to beat Australia. Again, this is a young player that he's probably going to play for Tonga for the next couple of years going into a World Cup. He is a guy you want to build around. You want to build this team around. You want to get a 5'8" that can support him. You want to get a hooker that will distribute the ball effectively to him on time. You want to get everyone to build around him so that he has the best possible chance of being effective. I think from last night's performance, he will learn a lot from that. He'll take and understand what the standard needs to be. What is the level to be Australia? And he'll learn, hopefully, a lot from that. AFB, 19 tackles. Look, you actually think about the tackling numbers, and Ali was the only one that had over 30, or Keon there as well. Again, like it kind of points to the fact that they had a ton of balls, especially in that first half. Australia had to defend a lot, and you'd probably say that Tonga didn't have to, and they didn't capitalize on that detail. I mentioned it from hooker to 5'8". All the link play wasn't focused enough. And the one thing with Australia, when you got them on the goal line, you have to get points. You just have to. The fact that they didn't get points in that first half is more damning than finishing the game 18-0. If you can get points early, it puts a bit of pressure on. And, if maybe Keon's try was the one that he knocked on, if that would have been the second try, it might have gone to 14-12. It's game on from there, and you can build and get some energy off the crowd. You can get some momentum to kind of carry your team over the line, but it just wasn't to be. But it's scary because from a Kiwis perspective, when I look at Tonga now, and I saw how physically dominant they were of the Kangaroos, pardon me, in the run game, in the carry game, it tells me they will get enough opportunities on the Kiwis goal line. It's whether or not they can execute, and that might be the difference between them making the final and missing out. They'll get to the goal line, they'll have the yardage there. I think they got the physicality and athleticism right, but can they execute on the goal line? That will be the big answer for them. We'll have to wait and see about that. Again, just not enough for me. It shows defensively that they didn't have to do too much there. Apart from that, errors, Keon had 3 errors there, Tui with 2, and Alamotti with 2. But that pretty much sums up, from a statistical point of view, the game. Guys, now, for me, I was just from an overall perspective, really, really enjoyed this game. Great to see the Sippy Tail, great to see the Tongan fans, again, 33,000. Great to see international footy. It was an enthralling game. It had a lot of errors. It was 2 teams that were really kind of trying to find their feet in many ways. But it's great to see a great performance. Got to give credit to the Kangaroos. They were absolutely awesome. Like I said, they defended what they had to. And for Tonga, the improvements will be, working on their attack. That's the real key, the detail around it. For Australia, can they do this performance again? That builds confidence. It's kind of a new era for them, moving forward with Dylan Edwards at the back. Travojevic and Fido kind of scare me. Dearden and Moses weren't very effective, in my opinion. They could be better. It looks like a halves partnership that is kind of out of sync, doesn't have any clear detail around it. Just as much as I'm calling out Tonga for their attack, I think Australia's attack was quite poor as well. But can they carry that performance against the Kiwis, who are kind of in the same position where don't have their best squad? So it's kind of a game where it'll be interesting to see how it goes in Christchurch. We'll get a good litmus test, I think, as to how good this Kangaroo squad is. If they do a number on the Kiwis in Christchurch, you pretty much feel that they can wrap this tournament up. But if it goes the Kiwis' way, there might be some doubts as to how good this Kangaroos team is. I think outside backs-wise, they've got just so much talent. The forwards, it was great to see Mitch Barnett. I think he was really, really good. And then, can they perform again? Again, it wasn't a great performance. It was 6-0 at halftime. And from the Kangaroo standards, that's not the caliber. This is kind of a team that puts on 5 or 6 tries. So there was a lot of disjointedness. Can they kind of limit those errors? Can they get this team ticking over to play the Kiwis? We'll find out. But anyway, guys, it's great to have international footy back. Really enjoyed that game. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Give us a like and subscribe and share your thoughts on how things went for you. But otherwise, guys, stay safe. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we'll catch you in the next video. Peace.